morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this, and welcome to this special edition video of my wee blether. You'll see that Frida is joining me today, and she's joining me for a very good reason, and that will make sense in a few minutes. But first, let me welcome those of you who are watching this and are part of the state of Wisconsin's Girls Summit. It was meant to be live at Alverno on March 28th. And for the reasons that you all are very aware of, we're all social distancing, and so the Girls Summit went virtual, and I'm excited to contribute a special edition of my wee blether, or my wee chat, about books and reading and writing and all sorts of other things that strike my fancy. So Frida is with me today, and you may know of Frida. She's obviously an iconic Mexican artist and really embodies a revolutionary spirit in all that she did. Frida, when she was about accident that left her with physical disabilities that really made it very difficult for her to do a lot of other things, and there was obviously a lot of emotional trauma that went along with that. But her spirit was resilient, and she discovered art. In fact, she discovered art laying flat on her bed, recovering from those injuries, and she used a mirror and a whole interesting contraption to do her art. And her art, as many of you know, is iconic and represents both her culture and her personal values about love and loss and pain. But the one thing that she's really known for is having such a resilient spirit. And so I thought I'd have this revolutionary artist join me on my desk today, because of the two books that I'm going to share with you have to do with two other women who were particularly iconic in my reading and in my life, and things that I'm interested in, but also they're incredibly iconic to our culture too, and one you may know and one you may not know. So that's the plan for the next few minutes. Before I go on, let me just say that I'm Carol Barrowman, and I am a professor of English at Alverno, for those of you who do not know that, and I'm also the director of the Creative Studies and Writing program at the college. And I believe that you can find a list of my books and the books that I'm recommending today on the Girls Summit website, so you can check that out when we're all finished. So Frida, let's start. We're going to start with the young woman who's in the picture behind me, and this is Mary Shelley, or next to me, and this is Mary Shelley. And like Frida, Mary Shelley created probably the most iconic science fiction character ever, and maybe the most iconic in just literature generally. She is the author of Frankenstein, and she wrote it, get this, she wrote Frankenstein when she was about 19 years old. I'm pretty sure I wasn't doing anything that great when I was 19. But anyway, Mary Shelley was a runaway, pregnant as a teenager, like Frida Kahlo, had incredibly revolutionary ideas about the way women should be treated, about gender in general, and about freedom and our right to vote. And she was an advocate for women's rights, partly because, and she was influenced by her mother, who was Mary Wollstonecraft, who wrote A Vindication of the Rights of Women for like the decade before Mary was born. But here's Mary Shelley, a runaway, pregnant, and realizes that she needs to turn to art and her writing to help her get her message across about a different way to see the world, and also to survive. Mary Shelley overcame a great deal of physical and emotional trauma. She persisted. Mary Shelley had cultural restraints that really oppressed her too. So she had to figure out a way in which she could exert her spirit, that revolutionary spirit that she had, and persist. Mary, and what she created, of course, is the focus of my first book. And this is Lila Judge wrote this, and it's Mary's Monster, Love and Madness, and How Mary Shelley Created Frankenstein. And it is stunning. It's a stunning work of literature, but it's also beautifully produced and created. It's a graphic novel of sorts, and it's obviously very dark. And but if I can just show you a couple of the pages here, you'll see how lovely this is done in ink drawings. There's obviously text, but it's beautifully done. And I just wanted to read a little bit to you from Judge's Mary's Monster. They expected girls to be nice and obey rules. They expected girls to be silent and swallow punishment and pain. She was cast out from society because she loved a married man. Her friends reviled her. Her father banished her from his home. But she did not hide. She was not silenced. She fought against the cruelty of human nature by writing. And she did. And this book takes Mary Shelley's story and some of her poetry and excerpts from her novel and puts it together in this just stunning tour de force. It is, it's dark and it's beautiful and it's wonderful and it is very inspiring. And I think if you don't know very much about Mary Shelley, but obviously in pop culture you've heard a lot about her Frankenstein and the monster and all the things that's influenced over the years, let's spend a little bit of time getting to know Mary herself and realizing what it took for her to overcome not just the societal oppression that was put on her, but the personal and the physical, and how she created such an amazing novel out of all of that because she persisted. So that's Mary's Monster. My second book choice for this special edition is hilarious. It's the opposite in terms of tone to Mary Judge's book, but it is equally as engaging and but definitely on the lighter side and a little funnier. And this book is called The Thrilling Adventures of Lovelace and Babbage by Sidney Padua. And let me just say that both books are written by very creative artists and writers, female artists and writers, and I think you'd enjoy their work. But this book then is about Ada Lovelace, or Ada Lovelace, and there's actually a really interesting connection because both women were working and writing and creating their art in the early to mid 1800s, and Ada Lovelace was actually the daughter, the only legitimate daughter of Lord Byron, who was often described as being mad, bad, and dangerous to know. And so she also, like Mary Shelley, Ada Lovelace, with her mother though, ran away, and they escaped the domestic challenges that were placed on them by being part of Lord Byron's home life and person, especially to the women in his life. So Ada left, and Ada, like Mary Shelley and like Frida, had a spirit about her. She was smart, but she was incredibly thoughtful and insightful about the world of numbers and math. and she wanted to be a scientist. And one day she went to a presentation or a lecture, and she heard Charles Babbage speak about what was essentially what he was trying to create was a steamed version of a computer. 100 years before we even had a real computer, he imagined it, and she imagined it too. And she thought, I can help. I can see things that he can't see. And so Ada then takes Babbage's work and essentially translates it so that other people can understand what he was trying to say, but she also at the same time added a whole nother level of theory to his work. So much so that now we recognize that what Ada did was really create the first actual computing theory. And she did it all in the footnotes to Babbage's work. And this is the cool thing about this book. It is also kind of a graphic novel, as you can see, but it's full of footnotes because she really established her philosophy of computing in the footnotes to his work. And so the book is full of footnotes. But the really fun thing about this book is the graphic aspects of it are, let's say, they're whimsical alternate reality kind of takes on Ada Lovelace's life. Whereas in the footnotes, you can jump in and out. You don't have to follow along with them at all. But if you don't read the footnotes in this book, you miss a ton of really interesting historical information about Ada and the time period, the Industrial Revolution, and all of the really exciting things that were happening in technology back then, and that Ada was part of as a woman, which was really not, we're only beginning to realize how many women were part of the Industrial Revolution and some of these technological advances. You can almost think about Ada a little bit as sort of a hidden figure in our history and needs to be discovered. So in the comics, we are treated to some hilarious adventures, because when she and Babbage get together, not only do they try to invent a computer, but they decide to take on crime and solve crime in 19th century Victorian. Sort of tongue-in-cheek irony and an in-your-faceness that I think readers will really enjoy. So there we have it. Today's wee blather. A little bit about Frida Kahlo. Two really exciting and interesting books.